welcome back to my channel, and if you're new here, welcome to the channel. My name is Keh-me and you're watching Milano Doll here on YouTube. I suggest you subscribe so you don't miss any more fun, amazing, beautiful, lit, excellent content. Diving straight into this video, as you can tell by the title, this video is a little bit different from what I usually do. It's more related to school and studying and exams basically. Before I actually begin the video, I have disclaimers as usual. Is it really my video if there isn't a disclaimer at the beginning of the video? I have my window open because it's kind of hot in here, and I think someone's like mowing their lawn or mowing whatever. So you may or may not hear it in this video. If you do, disclaimer. And also I feel like I'm always coming onto YouTube with like different hairstyles all the time, like, because I can never figure out a hairstyle for quarantine. Like, I don't want to go all out like I usually do because like I'm just staying at home and I don't want to waste extensions or like just waste because no one's gonna see. But then I'm filming videos, so I don't want to look like bummy either. But I think this is like the best one so far, even though the bun is kind of small. I feel like the scrunchie makes it look nice, so I think I really like this. You guys let me know in the comments. But yeah, that's enough of my rambling. We're gonna get straight into the video. Now this video is specifically aimed at year 10s, so if you're in year 10, I suggest you really listen. Take notes if you need to, do whatever, but really listen, because you guys have missed out a chunk of your school year for year 10 leading up to GCSEs. So every tip I'm going to give you today is crucial for you to ace your exams next summer. And even if you're not in year 10 or going into year 11 or whatever, I feel like my top tips can be applied and manipulated to any other year group because they're quite general, and I will be taking them on forward to A-levels. I've brought this like huge folder that I have filled up with basically every single exam that I ever did in year 11 that I've been given. So this will be my proof to show you guys that these top tips that I'm going to give you are exceptional. I've split my advice into 3 different categories, which are organization, revision, and exam technique. So we're going to start off with the simplest, the quickest, the most understandable: organization. So the first tip for organization is to constantly declutter your workspace. I cannot stress enough how important it is for you to work at a space that isn't crowded with paper, isn't crowded with supplies, etc. You need to have a clear space. A clear space equals a clear mind. If you do not have your things in the correct space where you work, you will feel overwhelmed, and it will just add to the stress that you already will have being a year 11 student. So one thing to decrease the stress that you will have is to just simply declutter your space. And that could be literally you just picking up English together, maths together, etc., and putting them in a corner or on a shelf, etc. It's simple. Just do it as frequently as possible. When you notice it's getting messy, tidy up. It can be hard to tidy up because all you want to do is get that work done and move on to the next, but do not forget it, because it's seriously one of the most important things. It adds so much to your mental health. The next tip for organization kind of links to the first tip about decluttering, and this is just to take a day off. You can use this day off to declutter, like I was talking about in the first tip, but you can also use this day off to literally just gather your mind and make your mind organized. It's one thing to have your space organized and your work organized, but you also really need your mind to be organized. I feel like when it reached to like December time, when I had my PPEs, my mind felt scattered. This was because there was back-to-back exams. Like even before the PPEs, we were having exams, and they all contributed to predicted grades or mock grades or whatever. And because there was so many exams, I didn't feel like I was revising properly, and everything was just scattered in my brain. So take that day off to cleanse your brain, like just bring yourself back to earth basically. My day off was Friday. You can pick any day of the week. Just make sure you use that day to completely focus on yourself. Doing this actually helps with the amount of information you're retaining in class, which is obviously really important because You need to soak up every single thing that is being told to you in class for your exams. And the reason why having an organized mind helps is because one thing I've been taught is that your mind is like an occupant of your brain. So if your mind isn't clear and if your mind isn't in this good space, your brain won't work properly. It's almost as though the brain is the living room and the mind is the person sitting in the living room. If the person sitting in the living room isn't happy, the atmosphere in the living room itself won't be happy. So if your mind isn't clear, your brain won't work properly. So take a day off to clear out your mind and just make sure you can get that optimum learning that you need in year 11. So now we've got all the organization out of the way, you know what you need to do to organize your mind and your space. We're now going to move on to revision. Most of my advice today is surrounded around revision, because revision is one of the most important things for year 11. Like, year 11 is literally the year. If you didn't revise in year 9, 10, 7, 8, year 11 is the year that you really need to revise. So the first thing you need to do to make sure that you are revising at the best way possible is to figure out the way you learn best. So this could be you learn best looking at posters. You might be a visual learner. You might be an auditory learner, meaning that you like to hear things and it sticks in your brain better. For me, it's reading things. I like to read as it is already. My brain is quite wordy, so reading things off, even with maths, like reading the steps step by step, that helped me so much. Like having flashcards for maths, like what I need to do to figure out this, that helped me so much. For you, you need to figure out, now's the time. You literally have nothing to do. We're in quarantine. You can't go anywhere. You can't do anything. Take the time to figure out how you learn best. I think there might be quizzes online for that. You can go online. I do have one place on Instagram where there's a quiz for that. I will link it in the bio below, so if you guys want to figure out how you learn, you can click that and find out. I didn't actually know how I learned best at the beginning of year 11. I actually found out later when I realised I was struggling with maths as usual. I realised that I do better with maths when I read off what exactly are the steps. I also do better like when someone's actually teaching me, but for revision, reading off the steps helps me so much, and then putting it into practice. And also, the way you learn can vary for each subject. Like, you don't have to have the same type of learning way for every subject. You could just find it better to read for maths or find it better to listen for science. It can literally be up to the way your brain works, but it is important that you know to make sure that you are using it at its best nature, to make sure that your brain is actually working the way it likes to work. The next tip I have for revision is to start revising and making your notes early. So in year 11, you've literally been in secondary school for 5 years now, up to 5 years. So you've basically covered most content by now. You may not have covered every single thing, but you've covered most. So that means you can start revising all the things that you might have covered in year 10 and start making your notes on them. Start making your notes on the first topics of science. Start making your notes on the first thing you learn in year 10 on maths. Like, start making your notes. Making notes early is actually a benefit. A lot of people like have this negative connotation to making notes early, like, oh, why are you starting so early? Really, you should just got into 11, chill. No. Making your notes early is the best thing you could do, because one, it gives you more time in year 11 to focus on memorizing these notes, because this is not a matter of learning anymore. It's literally a matter of remembering that content, literally memorizing it, storing memories of those flashcards into your brain. That's literally what it is. So the quicker and the earlier that you make those notes, the more time you have to memorize them. And then this then means the more time you have to focus on exam technique, because year 11 is 50% knowing the content and 50% exam technique. A lot of people don't know this. It's really not about knowing the stuff, because you can know the stuff but not know how to apply the stuff, and that's the code to GCSEs. It's really literally about applying your knowledge. If you know this, why does this mean this? That's literally what it's about. So making your notes early gives you more time to focus on how to apply your knowledge to the questions. I actually had a wake-up call about this in like year 10, like the beginning of year 10, because I remember being in a science exam. It was like biology, and The question was asking me something about how a tadpole does something in the water. I can't remember, but I just remember it being about a tadpole. I was like, sis, I've never learned anything about a tadpole before, and I revised so much on biology, the topics that we were being tested on. I revised so much on it because I knew that we was getting tested, but my results wasn't like in an equal ratio to how much I revised. Like, if you revise 100%, you expect to get 100%. Do you know what I mean? That wasn't it for me. That was not how it went for me, because I didn't know how to apply my knowledge. So from then I was like, okay, they don't want you to just know the content, they also want you to know how to apply your content to things you've never heard of. As in, you were going to, I'm so passionate about this, I need to stop talking, but you get the point. You need to make your notes early. You can start now. Like, you can really just start now because we don't have anything else to do. I suggest you start now. Start making those flashcards. Start learning however it is you learn best. Start doing it now so you have time in year 11 to focus on memorization and exam technique. Now, the next tip I have for you guys on revision is to revisit topics frequently. This helps with your memorization, as I was saying before. You can't look at something one time and said, okay, I've revised that. No, you need to go back on that thing multiple times and test yourself. Don't just read it off of the flashcard that you made or read it off of the poster you've made. Test yourself. Now that you know this, let's see if I can do this. One thing I used to do when I was in year 11, well, I'm technically still in year 11, but one thing I used to do when I was revising for GCSEs is I would, especially for science, I would make notes on a specific topic. Then when I moved on to the next topic, I'll be making notes on the next topic, but I'll be questioning myself on the first topic I just did notes on. For example, let's say I started off with cells. I was making my notes on cells. I finished my notes on cells. I'm now moving on to diseases. And now, whilst I'm making my notes on diseases, I'm questioning myself on cells, just so that my brain doesn't forget everything I've learned on cells. One thing that you really need to know is that you will only remember something if you constantly come back to it. You can't just read it one time or revise it one time and move on to the next. You have to constantly test yourself, constantly revisit it, constantly get your brain working on every area that there is, so that you remember everything you need to know to pass your GCSEs. The next tip I have for you guys today is to discuss the topics or the subjects that you're revising. Now, personally, I actually didn't discuss it in like friendship groups, etc. I discussed it in like the class. Doing this helps you to apply your knowledge. Why? Because you're thinking, when you discuss it, you're thinking more outside of the box. One thing my teacher used to do as well for us is she used to send us newspaper articles. So, well, this is for science, by the way. She used to send us newspaper articles through email so that we could just read around what's actually going on. This helps us to literally know how science is being applied to actual real life. You could be learning about evolution and you know how evolution works, you know about natural selection, you know the stuff. However, they might come and say to you, okay, you know about evolution, however, can you tell me about where you would have to apply evolution to? But you don't know how, because you didn't read newspaper articles, you didn't discuss the topics in the classroom. It's really, really good to discuss things in the classroom, because I know no one's gonna do it in their spare time. I don't expect you to do it in your spare time, because I didn't either. Like, you need a break. But when you can, always talk about something outside of the box in that topic, about how interconnected every organism on the planet is, or how everybody has like a common ancestor, and how far and how much and why is it that we all have this common ancestor. Ask yourself these questions, because these are the type of questions that they will ask you in the exam, and it's better to start getting used to it now. So make sure you try to discuss in a class and read newspaper articles if your teacher sends them to you, or just do it for yourself. I feel like I kind of rambled in that one, but I hope you guys get the point. Also, before I go on to my last tip, discussing the topics in the class, etc. also helps with memory, because when you're discussing, it forces you to think about what you already know. It also kind of revisits the topics, it reminds you about what you've learned, etc. So it helps with memory and revising. You're basically revising. So moving back to my last and final tip for revision, Identify your weak spots and tackle them. I'm sure when you finish an exam, your teacher gives you back feedback and she basically tells you, basically tells you where you went right and where you went wrong. Identify where you went wrong, notice where you didn't get marks for, and tackle it. And by tackle, I mean, okay, I did this correctly, but I didn't do this correctly. Cool. Now, let me see how other people might have done it. You can go and look at someone else's paper in your classroom and say, how did you do this? This even really works well in maths. You might not have gotten the full marks in that specific question. You might have gotten 2 out of 5. Go to someone that got 4 out of 5 or 5 out of 5 and say, so what did you do to actually get the marks? And tackle that specific bit. Or in English, maybe your teacher constantly tells you that this is the specific thing that you're not getting right in your essays. Tackle that. Look at exemplars online. That's one thing that I used to do. If I didn't know how to actually talk about a specific topic in English, I used to go online and read other people's essays. And honestly, you can really just memorize the essay. Not memorize it, but keep like a general knowledge of how they wrote the essay and just apply it to your work. I have evidence that this really works. So I'm just gonna fold this so you don't see that what school I went to. Some of you already know, but I don't want to expose myself. So over here, can you see? Yes, you can see. You can see that in total in this paper I got 72 out of 96. And you can tell that I did not do well in this last question here. I got 4 out of 8. I also didn't do as well as I wanted in this question here. I got 17 out of 24, which is good, but I expect to get more for myself. And also over here, 22. 22 is low compared to the 26. So what did I do? What I always do, and what you should always do, is read back these essays. I read it all back, and I noticed why I got those marks. You can almost mark it yourself and try to see, like, have the mark scheme and try to see what it is that you didn't hit. Your teacher would have already told you, but read them back and notice, okay, this didn't quite work out. And also pinpoint the questions you weren't doing, just like I just did just now. I noticed I didn't do well in the question where I got 4 out of 8, 17 out of 24, and 22 out of 30. Also make an aim. You can see that my target for the next paper was 84. I wanted this to turn into 84, and I had a target for each question, what I wanted to improve. So targeting the weak spots in that specific paper, I applied it to the next paper and I increased by 10 marks, 82. Obviously my goal was 84, but 10 marks is still amazing to go. And you literally just gain 10 marks by noticing what didn't work. And if you notice, the question where I got 4 out of 8, I ended up getting 7 out of 8. I targeted the questions that I didn't do well on, and I basically did well on them. And also the question where I got 17, I ended up getting 22 out of 24, 2 marks off. All you have to do is notice what's not working and tackle it. Actually, by doing that, you can increase by 10 marks and it literally changes your grade. The first paper was a grade 7 and this paper was a grade a grade 8. So literally doing that can determine you moving on to the next grade. And even this was a grade 8, 2 marks away from a 9. Literally, I could have moved 2 levels up from literally pinpointing what doesn't work and changing it. So we're now going to move on to the last and final category of this advice video, and that is exam technique. The first tip I have for you guys for exam technique is similar to what I've just been mentioning, but the tip is to take on board your teacher's feedback and practice it. This was something that was very important for me in geography, because especially in any other subject where the mark scheme can be demanding, for me it was in geography and English and science. So taking on board feedback and actually putting it in practice can help you to get into that next band and to get into that next grade and just literally just inch your way up the whole year. Putting it into practice before you reach the exam will make sure that it solidifies, and it makes sure that like type of writing that enables you to get the highest marks is stuck in your flow. If that even makes sense. I hope that makes sense. But basically put it into practice so it's something that you do in the exam hall on GCSE day as second nature. Just make it something that you do regardless of if you think about it or not. Your teacher will tell you that that's what you need to do. Your teacher will show you this is what you're not doing, and this is what you need to do to get that extra 2 marks. And as soon as you listen, as soon as you put it into practice, you will see results. Honestly, you will. So the last and final tip that I have for you guys today of this video and of this category is to have a good knowledge of the mark scheme for every single one of the subjects that you're sitting, and also to have a good knowledge of the assessment objective, the AOs. Have a good knowledge of those. This way you actually know what you're actually being marked for. This way you cut all the crap, you cut all the waffle and just get straight to the point and get those marks. Literally what you want to do is you don't want to be on the fence. You want to hit those marks head on, and you can only do that by knowing what that examiner, knowing what the mark scheme, what the teacher is looking for when they mark your work. For example, one thing that was really crucial in English Literature paper 2 was, I think it was the last question, there was a specific AO, I think it was AO 3, but there was a specific AO that wasn't in that last question. And a lot of people forgot about that. A lot of people didn't realize that, oh yeah, they're not being marked for that AO. And they were writing, especially, I remember in my class, people were actually writing on that AO and nobody got marks. Like, even I was a culprit. I got 4 out of 8. I remember someone actually getting 0. I can't remember if it's because they didn't attempt it or if they didn't do enough. But we didn't know actually what we were being marked for, and we was writing about something that the examiner is completely not looking for. When that was eliminated, and when we actually knew what the assessment objectives were and what the mark scheme was looking for, we did well. For example, I got 7 out of 8. Even to do with the mark scheme, not even with the assessment objectives, knowing what the mark scheme is like, especially in science, knowing how crucial and accurate and minuscule, I guess, how narrow that mark scheme is, it helps you so much to get the marks. Because in science, one of the frustrating things were you could have like the right concept overall, but you didn't use a specific word, or you did use a word that they weren't going to accept and you didn't get the marks. And it's like, if you knew that this is the way they wanted you to word it instead, you would have got 4 marks. So knowing that little bit can literally just up your grades just a little bit more. So make sure you know exactly how the mark scheme works, what your assessment objectives are, and how to navigate the mark scheme, how to basically play with marks. The whole thing with GCSE is it's literally just a memorization game, and it's literally a play for marks. So yeah, that's literally it that I have for you guys today. Honestly, now that you've watched this video, I have like so much faith in you that you'll do well next year, because I feel like I've tackled some really important stuff that you guys might not always hear. And if you guys want me to do more videos about exams, GCSEs, my experience, etc., I will. I know some of you year 10s might be put at a disadvantage because of the coronavirus, and how you guys are not in school currently. You guys actually need your teachers there, but you haven't had them for the last couple of months, so it can put you at a serious disadvantage with your GCSEs. So if you'd like me to do any more videos that will help you out, I will. And yeah, I hope that this video was very what's the word? Why am I always searching for words? I hope this video was very knowledgeable. I don't know. Let me know what video you guys like to see next week, because every single week I actually have trouble figuring out what video I should do, because like seriously, what video should I do? Because what can I do? I can literally just sit in front of the camera and talk. I can't take you guys anywhere or anything. So let me know what you've been waiting for me to post that I haven't already. And yeah, that's it guys. I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye guys.